Good morning, world of YouTube. Got your handheld for this first part of this video here. I did some videos that I put on my Facebook page, kind of documented what I did with this little project here. This is a Fender Sonoran. If you can, there's the headstock. It's a Fender Sonoran guitar. And for those of you, any of you familiar with those guitars, you can tell this is not a standard Fender Sonoran guitar. I did a lot of mods and stuff to this guitar, and it turned out really nice. And as you can tell, mainly the main feature there is that fretboard. I took this guy off. This is the old fretboard, rosewood fretboard. I took that off and put on this, it's actually an olive wood fretboard. I reused the frets, so you can tell here's the old, and I'm just hanging on to this to have access to the rosewood should I ever need it. But I reused the frets, and what I didn't have was to do some of this stuff. You do have to have a few specialty tools. You can't just go down to Harbor Freight or Lowe's or some other hardware store, home improvement store, and find some of this stuff. Some things you have to do on your own, which I needed to buy them. So I'm going to show you that in a minute, but again, just to give you a view of this guitar, I'll just run down what all the mods that I did. I put the actual, for those of you that may be familiar with this guitar, it doesn't come with the actual Fender vintage tuners. I put those in. Tuning machines, it's back and forth these days. People call it tuners, and then you get confused with the tuner that actually tunes the guitar. But tuning machines is the technical term, I guess, for these guys. Anyway, had a little bit of a go around with Fender because they said it should be just a direct swap, and it wasn't. I had to drill the headstock, all that. Anyway, I don't want to stretch this out, just running down. Kept the bone nut that was in the other. I just moved it over. Again, I kept all of these frets, which is where I am today for this video working on this guitar, is have to address an issue with the frets. I added this abalone inlay around the sound hole. Put on these really cool, they're water buffalo horn, that's right, water buffalo horn bridge pins. Added those, and they have abalone dots in them. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's really cool. It had this abalone effect. I put abalone dots in the new fretboard, so it kind of had this whole theme going on. It was really kind of a cool project. Kind of bought the guitar on the cheap, and really, because I had never taken a fretboard off or anything like that, so if it ended up being something you're just going to mount on the wall and look at it, not be able to play it, I didn't want to spend a huge amount of money. But it turned out really good, and it plays really well from 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, got you out of the camera here. I still got your handheld and amateur camera work here, so plays really well up to about the 6th fret. And I've got you heard me talk about this before, my 18 thousandths here is right on the money. The neck relief is 10 thousandths, that's right on the money. My string height is right where I like it. I mean, it's nice and low, and I play kind of hard, so my daughter comes over and she plays my stuff, and she says it feels a little bit high to her, but to me it's perfect because of the way I play, and I don't want to get any buzz. But I made the notes. I got a little notebook over on that side of my desk. There it is. And I've made some notes, and when I put these frets back in from the old fretboard into the new fretboard, I pounded them in and all of that, like you're supposed to install and all of that. The problem is some of them are with some unevenness, or some of the frets they're not level all the way down through here. And what I've done is in my notes, I've marked where I have some issues. So like on the first string, everything plays great until you get to the 9th fret. So let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here, right in this area, actually the 6th fret here on the B string, 12 and 13 on the middle 2 strings, and then the top 2 strings are fine. They play no problem all the way down. Let me throw you back on the pause for just a minute here. I'll put you back on the tripod, and I'll explain to you what I mean by the issues that I'm having. I'll explain it to you a little bit more. So hold on just a second. There we go. I've got you adjusted, readjusted the camera, and got you in here so you can see where we need to work. So again, I made some notes, and let's just go up here and I'll show you, like for the first string. There you go. So you can hear that. And then it doesn't change here. So you can hear that. So I've gone all along here and I've marked. So that's an issue. All of these. It's an issue with the frets not being level. And let me grab a straight edge. I can show you here what I'm talking about, because where the frets are not level, the straight edge here will actually rock. So let me see if I can find some. Yep, right off the bat. And if you can hear that rocking noise. So where I am, you can, let me make sure I got you in the film here. Oh, I barely do. Oh, again, amateur camera work here. Let me zoom you in here. There we go. So where I am with the straight edge, I'm trying not to get my hand too much in the way, but where I am here, those frets are level. If I go back a fret, these are not. You can hear it rock back and forth. So what that tells me is I need to do some work on these frets to get them level. And I mentioned having to have specialty tools. Well, the straight edge is definitely not one of those. I'm going to zoom you back out here so you can hopefully see what I'm doing. And it really wouldn't be a big deal the way it is, because typically I don't play much past here on the guitar. I'm a rhythm guitar player. I pretty much stay down in this area, but I'm not the only one that plays my guitar. And we have band, when we're doing a show or something like that, if I take this guitar, which was the whole point of doing it, because it looks cool, so if I happen to take this guitar and then we start trading instruments around and playing, typically I play a lot of bass in our band, and then I have some songs I'll play guitar and stuff like that. But if somebody else grabs this guitar to play it, and they're, let's for example, going to put a capo here and play a song up in here, that would be problematic because everything's fretting out because the frets aren't level up in this part of the neck. So again, I'm not the only one that plays it, so it's got to be dealt with. But again, specialty tools, that's where I was. I kind of feel like I'm not very focused this morning. But there are a couple of specialty tools that you have to have if you're going to do, especially if you're going to do work on your frets. There's one specialty tool in particular, and I didn't have that at the time that I did all the modification on this guitar. I've since ordered this tool, and there are many different kinds. This is just happens to be the one that I bought. It's actually a fret crowning file, and it's a diamond fret crowning file. You can see that it's in the shape of a fret. It's got a, you know, that concave bottom to it. The profile is such that it fits on the fret, and you can file. I've talked to you about that, the radius, or the crown they call it, on the frets. I've talked to you about that in other videos, but you can't just file the frets down and leave them flat. The guitar won't play properly if you do that. And some people, I've seen quite a few people actually try to do that. Now, you do have to take some material off to get the frets that are high, to level them out. So I'm actually going to do that with just a basic file that you can go down to the hardware store. Now, these are not flat, so I put it on the desk, and whichever way that it's bowed, and I'm exaggerating of course, but the file has a bow in it this way or this way, depending on which side, this side or this side. I put an X, you can see that, on the side that is bowed this way, underbowed, right? And so as I'm filing, I don't have to worry about it digging the wrong, this way as opposed to this way. It just works better that way. So I put an X, so I always know the X goes down against the frets. And basically what I'm going to do with, excuse me, with the exception of the first two strings, I've got to address the issue around the 9th fret for the high E string, and around the 6th fret for the B string, and then for the middle two, and actually for the E, B, G, and D strings, all four of those, from basically the 12th fret down to the end, I have to address. So I'm going to basically file that whole section, and you can see that here, kind of demo what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to file these down and make them level, and then once this whole section is leveled out, I'm going to take the crowning file, and I'm going to put the crown, or the top of the radius. And again, I explained this to you before, but let me try one more time. Here I'm going to use a feeler gauge because it resembles the shape of a fret. But once I file with a file like this, of course, then the fret becomes flat on the top, and I hope you can understand that, right? Metal file, or it's going to take material off the top of the fret, so it's not going to have this round top anymore. It's going to be flat. Well, to play properly and all of that, the frets need to have this crown, this radius, if you want to call it that, on the top, so that when you push down on the string, it's hitting the top part of this radius. Well, that's where this guy comes in. And again, a specialty tool that you need if you're going to do this kind of stuff, and it's not cheap. I think I paid $40 or $50 for this little guy. But that's kind of the plan of attack. Is I'm going to get the strings off, and I'll probably throw this guy, in which I know I'm going to put that capo down here on the 1st fret, and that's so I don't have to take the strings out of the tuning machines, out of the tuners, and so I can just pull the bridge pins and get the strings out of my way, do what I need to do, throw them back on. Just makes my life a little bit easier. So first order of business, I'm going to get the strings off. I'll put you into time lapse and do that. It's not exciting video watching me take the strings off the guitar. So here we go. Okay, that little bit of excitement out of the way. And yeah, so we're just going to address where we need to work. Again, I kind of explained this to you from about the 12th fret down. I'm basically going to file from about here over, so I can go ahead and just kind of do that a little bit. And listen, it does not take much doing this, and this will kind of show you. Got some unevenness there, but really don't want to put a lot of downward pressure here. See if you can see what I'm doing here. Get you in the camera. Here we go. Maybe zoom a little bit. And notice I'm moving the file, I'm not keeping it in one spot, I'm kind of moving it around. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to take my straight edge and I'm going to check each all along. I need to check here, make sure that we're I can tell right there. I need to do a little more filing in this area right here. I still have this. It's this guy right here that's the one that's right at the body line of the guitar that's causing some issues there. Still have some, and I hope the camera and the mic is picking that up. That's really out of level there. So I'm going to hit this side again. And I may bust you into time lapse for some of this. All right, let me bring you back in. As I shared with you, I took the flat file, see it there, and I leveled out. I actually came all the way down to about this area because I could just feel, and again, you can almost feel when you get these level, this just glides across, and then where it hangs up is where there's high spots, and from here over, kind of tapering, I guess. I started wide here and then kind of worked in this way because that's where I had unevenness in my frets. So now they're really flat on the top, and you probably cannot tell that from where you are in the video. But what I need to do now is starting right about the 5th. I'm going to start 2, 3. I'm going to start, probably about the 5th fret here because I think I hit that a couple of times with the file. So I'm going to start here, work my way down, and I'm going to use my fret crowning file. And with this, it's pretty amazing with this being a diamond file and all of that. It really doesn't take long to put the crowns back in, and string it back up, and excuse me, I'll string it back up and all of that, and then I'll bring you back in and you can see how it sounds. I need to do a little bit of other cleanup, and I'm probably put a little bit of oil, linseed oil, on this fretboard before I put the strings back on it. oil the bridge and stuff like that, just regular stuff while I've got it kind of apart here. Go ahead and do that. So again, I'm going to kick into time lapse while I do this with the crowning file. Alright, hey there again. I'm going to bring you back in. I got you handheld here, so if I bounce you around too much, just apologies for that, but thought I'd give you a little bit, maybe of a closer look of what all I did. When I left you, I was filing these frets down in here, leveling them out, and then I used my crowning file, which I showed you, put the crown back in, and you can see I went and I polished. You can see how they're just, the light is just reflecting off of those things. I sanded them with I sanded them all the way to 1000 grit after I filed them to get the file marks out, of course, and then on top of the 1000 I did polish. And here's again, this is what I used, polished frets. It's made by Happage Semichrome Polish. You can find it on Amazon. It's great stuff. It's got a very, very mild abrasive. You can use it for everything from polishing frets to if you have pick scratches and stuff, it'll take those out. Anyway, I love that stuff. So I polished the frets. You can again see that beautiful, beautiful fretboard that I put on this guitar with the abalone dot inlays and all of that. The abalone that I added around the sound hole came down here, and I oiled this the bridge. I oiled the fretboard as well when I went ahead. I had the strings off, as you can see. So after I polished the frets, I oiled the fretboard, just as a matter of this being a fairly new piece of wood and it's an open grain wood. I'm going to oil it a little more often than I normally would. You know, regular guitar, probably every 2 or 3 times I change the strings, and I'll oil the fretboard. This one I'm pretty much going to do every time for the foreseeable future, just to allow the oil to penetrate and kind of build up a nice finish on the wood. But it's very pretty, looks nice. And again, main reason I got this Fender guitar is this Fender acoustic guitar is because it has the Fender Strat headstock, and that's one thing that I wanted, and so I went with that. Pretty much I did everything vintage as far as the hardware goes. The vintage tuning machines, tuners, whatever you want to call them there, the actual Fender Deluxe vintage, the vintage string tree, all that. I did all that stuff, so kind of keep with that vintage type look. And then after I oiled, as always, let it sit for about 5 minutes, wiped off the oil, and then I cleaned and polished the top. And then what I also like to do is, after I polish, I have some cleaner / polishing stuff. It's made by Kaiser that I just spray on. It cleans and shines up the top, and then on top of that I just use a paste wax, in this case just Johnson paste wax. Rub that, and I do it in sections, because if you don't do it in sections, it's hard to get off. So on this particular guitar, I did this section here, buffed it off, did this section here, buffed it off, and then section here and buffed it. I'll do the sides and the back off camera, but just so you can see what I've done here. And what I'm going to do now is, I haven't had the strings back on it since I've done the fret work, but these frets are super nice, and I showed them to you. They're nice, and you can see how that shop light that's above us here is just reflecting in those frets, and they're just really shiny and polished up really, really, really nicely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the camera here. I need to get the strings back on, and then we'll recheck all the measurements. I'll bring you along for all of that. So hold on while I get things set up. Strings back on, all tuned back up to pitch, or relatively close. We don't need to be perfect really for this next step. I shouldn't have to adjust anything as far as the first fret height goes, because I didn't change anything with that. That all still feels just really good, right? A snug 8, which is what I like. Again, if you like something different, then that's what you need to go with, but I like a snug 18 thousandths there at the first fret. I'm going to check the relief, which was really good before I started anything with the frets. So again, to do that, we just put the capo on first fret, and then again, what I like, 10 thousandths relief. And what I do is typically where the neck meets the body is where I fret, and then somewhere around, I usually use the 7th fret, but 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in there, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 7, 8, 9, these 3 frets. And what I like to feel, and I'm just using 10 thousandths feeler gauge, and that's really close. What you can actually do is I could tell you can't hear it, I'm sure, on the camera because it's too faint, but I can barely hear this feeler gauge touching the string under there. And again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Check 7th, 8th, 9th frets, and that feels just really good. At the 12th fret, which is here's my 90 thousandths. And again, these are rough measurements. This is what I like to use. I have this old plastic saddle sanded down to 80 and 90 thousandths, and I use that, and I want it to lift just a little bit. So I am setting it a little bit lower than 90 thousandths. As you can see, it does lift the string, but you can go lower as long as it doesn't buzz. You can go as low as you want. So I use this 80 and 90, but I'm well, and I need to take before I can do that. Sorry, I had the capo on. Can't do the string height with the capo on. So try that again. There's the 90, and it is lifting the string some, but I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't buzz. And 80, it's doing this exact same thing. I don't know if you can see that or not. The 80 is barely lifting the string a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'll pause the camera. I'm going to go set up in the other room, wipe down the rest of the guitar, go set up in the other room, and then I'll play it a little bit for you. And then, like I said, if you want to comment, let me know how you think it sounds. Let me know what you might have done differently if it was your guitar. I will. So I'm going to stop this, and I'll see you back in just a few minutes. All right, let me bring you back in. As you can see, we've moved back to what I call my studio room, and just where I have instruments that I play, not the ones I work on in the other room, but where I practice and play music and do some writing and recording, all that stuff in here. I've brought the Fender guitar here. Again, I'm going to overlay a picture of what this guitar looked like before I did any work on it, but give you a good look at the guitar here. Just a very pretty guitar, and as you'll see, it actually sounds pretty good too. Nice sound to it. It plays really good. The action is nice and low. And I hope you can see okay. This is the first time I'm recording in the evening in this particular room, and the lighting in this room is kind of a low light room, but hopefully you can see okay. And again, I love the Fender Strat headstock on this guitar. All the things that I've done to this guitar. So, all right. So I'm going to play this a little bit for you,
and let you hear what it sounds like. Here we go. I'm gonna take this badge from me, 'cause I can't use it anymore. It's getting dark, too dark to see. I feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door. I'm not knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. So there you have it, Fender Sonoran, all modified by me, and just a beautiful guitar, and hope you like the way it sounds. Thanks for following along on this video, and again, if there's something you would have done differently, if it was your guitar, maybe something I never thought of, throw it down in the comments. I'd love to see them. And again, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the video and the channel, thumbs up, subscribe, invite other folks to come over and check it out. Got a really neat project actually that's already in the works. I've got a couple of videos and in the editing process, getting ready to upload all of that. Really neat old guitar, that old archtop guitar actually, and I'm looking forward to introducing that to you. And that one's in the works, so stick around, and some really good stuff coming at you. And those of you, I know I've been talking about it a lot, but it's coming. Those of you looking forward to some of the painting stuff, I'm going to get that going as well. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time on the channel.